Hello, welcome back to NG Meets. We've had a bit of a break, but we're back now, and obviously, what a different world it feels like since the last episode. I'm sure, like me, most of you are at home at the moment, be you working, on furlough, or looking after your children, etc., etc., and various other reasons during this rather worrying and confusing time. So obviously that's played a part in one of the reasons why we've been on a bit of a break recently. Like many of you, things have been a bit up in the air, and there's been a lot of adapting and adjusting to new scenarios. But we're back this week. We've got a brand new episode of NG Meets for you, and I guess this week are Chris and Amanda from the excellent Purple Mamba Club. For those that don't know, Purple Mamba is a swingers club out in West Bridgford. They've been going for a couple of years now, and we sat down with them and had a chat about the club, what it offers, why they set up in West Bridgford, why they set up the club, and also obviously about why these clubs are about more than just sex and getting against the sort of stigma attached to those kind of places. It was great to chat to them. Obviously, like any other entertainment venue at the minute, Purple Mamba are closed for actual visits. So obviously the events they talk about, all of those are currently on hold for the foreseeable future, just like any other place. They do have a virtual club going on, which you can find out more about if you go to purplemambaclub.com. But I'm sure, like many venues and businesses, it's a very, very worrying time for the club. So hopefully you can give them a support, find out more about them, and hopefully they, like many others, will be back up and running sooner rather than later. Although it could be some time, obviously, before any semblance of normality comes back. Still, hopefully, obviously, while you're in isolation or lockdown or quarantine or however you want to refer to it, you're making the best of it. Make sure you are, looking after yourselves, and obviously not just your physical health but your mental health. It is important for that. Obviously, we're very limited on going out. We can't, and mixing with people. You obviously can't mix with friends, external family, but you can go out. You can, take a quiet walk, find somewhere. There's not a lot of people go out at a time of day when it's not busy. Follow the instructions over social distancing, staying 2 meters apart from people. But it is important to try and get in some kind of physical activity or exercise. Remember, your mental health is just as important as your physical health. That being said, obviously, follow all the instructions being put out there and stay safe. And if you're looking for something to check out and you're new to the show, maybe you've found this episode via different sources. We've got a whole back catalogue of episodes you can check out at ngdigital.podbean.com. For something for you to listen to while you're doing your various tasks during the day. Also, this show, of course, is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Podcast Addict, most other podcast players. So check out some of those episodes. We've also got episodes coming up with Nottingham Lions Football Club and Ludarati Gaming and Cafe Bar. Both of these episodes were recorded well before the sort of escalation of the COVID-19 situation. So that doesn't come up, and of course both of these will be affected in terms of Nottingham Lions FC. Obviously, football is on hold, and for Ludarati, like any others, again their personal premises are closed. But again, they have online events. They've got some great RPG events and things going on. I'll talk about them in their episode, but check them out. You can find them Ludarati Cafe. But this episode, of course, is with Purple Mamba. We've got a guest host for this episode in ND Digital presenter Geri. She headed along to speak to them, and it was a great chat. It's quite a short episode. They were very busy at the time, and but it was great to find out more about this, and obviously to tackle some of the stigma that surrounds these kind of venues. So hopefully you're all staying safe. Please follow all the instructions, as I said, and enjoy NG Meets episode 29 with Purple Mamba Club.
So I'm joined by the lovely Crystal from Purple Mamba. How are you both today?
Good.
We're very well, thank you.
Excellent. Now this year is your second year of being open. What made you open Purple Mamba?
Oh, it's a long story, isn't it, Christopher?
We were tired.
We were very tired and working very, 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 very hard. Very stressful jobs. And, well, some people kind of think, I'm going to leave this life and I'm going to open up a coffee shop or set up a knitting circle. Whereas this is our hobby. So we decided to kind of stretch out into this particular area instead.
Now, I couldn't imagine you opening a knitting circle, to be honest. And how did you get about going with the licences? Because obviously you're the very first exclusive swingers club in Nottingham. And I can remember reading it in the papers and people making comments, a swingers club. So how did you get away from the stigma of it, you know, from the olden days where it's keys in a bowl and just everybody getting, you know, thinking it's just sleaze?
Communication. We talked to a lot of people about what we planned and what we intended to do. We used common sense, and in reality, one of the comparisons that I kind of like is that the club itself is a social space, just like any other pub, club, or even go as far as comparing it to restaurants, although people don't tend to eat food in here. You can go off and you can go to the pub, you can meet somebody in the pub, and very often, if it goes a lot further than just a friendly chat and a drink, people can wind up having sexual encounters in alleyways, in places that they've never been before, in places that are unsafe, in the back of cars and unpleasant places. Whereas in the club, we recognise that those encounters take place with frequency, and they can happen in a safe environment. So there is that. There's also the part about how you recognise that sex and love are two different things, and then not necessarily mutually exclusive. So it's providing a pleasant place, a nice place where people can have fun and relax and be themselves.
And it's a safe place, because we've personally never met anybody in our own home or in a hotel, people that we don't know. Yeah. So it's kind of needed too.
And I have noticed you are very, I won't say fussy, but you're very particular about them, because a lot of clubs don't tend to have memberships and they just let anyone and everyone in. And I have noticed, being here myself, you do kind of vet who you allow in on specific nights as well. So what made you decide that, you know, instead of being like other clubs where you just let anyone in, what's made you decide to have it that bit more exclusive?
One of the things is because of the area. It's a very, very nice area here at Trembridge. And it kind of leans itself to that sort of person. We're not exclusive when it comes to age, ethnicity, but we are kind of when it comes to things like manners and how somebody comes across. We kind of say our criteria for memberships for professional couples and singles who are of smart appearance and are polite and respectable. And to me, that kind of covers everything. But if they come in here and they might have an interview, and I kind of get the expectation that they're not coming just to meet people who with the similar interests as them. They're just coming for sex. Then they're straight again out of the door. Because that's not the environment that we are. We're kind of sex positive rather than sleazy sex.
No, I know that. I mean, when I've been here myself, it's never been when you had single males. They're never pushy. They never try and push themselves like, oh, I'm joining in whether you like it or not. Whereas other clubs that I've been to, it feels like when they're stood there, they're expecting that invitation.
It is that expectation.
I think it's because we want a safe environment and we want a pleasant experience. Whether there's sexual interaction or not, the real payment for running the club is when people leave the club happy, feeling like they've had a good time, and that can come in a number of ways, whether it be through the music, through the conversations, or through the activities that people get up to.
So I have noticed as well in the past you've had singers on. How do they feel when you approach them? Oh, do you fancy playing in swingers club? I can imagine. Again, it's that whole stigma of.
Yeah, it started off like that, and the funny thing is now we're getting approached by lots and lots and lots of local artists, and they are all pretty much amazing, actually. Yeah, I love them. But to start off with, I always see like my own sex life with my beautiful, gorgeous husband as something that's not just something that happens in the bedroom. It is that part of going out for a meal, socialising with other people, having a night out, and that's all part of the foreplay. And singers or magicians or comedians, they all kind of add to that night out where it is adding up to that whole sexual experience, which is a nice thing, even though they're not.
Yeah, it's just a nice way of leading it into it.
Yeah.
And because obviously you also have different theme nights as well. How do you come up with the different themes rather than thinking, oh, we'll stick to one theme that we know? Because I know you do the Ready Player One parties, which I've heard go down really well.
We are slightly geeky. So things like Ready Player One parties, because our membership based, they've got Ready Player 3 parties. Sorry, our membership based.
Sorry, that was my fault.
That was cool.
They're coming from loads and loads of different backgrounds, and of course, so if you're a gamer or a cosplayer, you can come along on a normal Friday night, or you can come along on a kind of party night that's designed around you. If you're kind of a bit more mature, you might want one of our more kind of sophisticated party nights. Or if you just like things like Rocky Horror Show and just dressing up at the weekend, then just come along to one of those ones. We try to keep away from the whole tacky side, but it's more of the fun side that we're kind of interested in.
And what made you choose West Bridgford?
I think for the whole of the East Midlands, if you just look at it purely demographically, it kind of fits our idea of who we want in the club, and also it's just an awesome area, really.
It's the safest area in Nottingham. It's also one of the most popular areas in Nottingham. Locally, people tend to be hardworking, and they value what they have, and those sort of aspirations fit well in the club environment. And certainly when people work hard, they want to play and have fun.
Yeah, it adds to the whole night out there, because we get taxi drivers coming and picking up members to return back home or to hotels or wherever, and they'll say, "Oh, town's really dead, but you're really busy," and it's just a nice little Central Avenue, little central hub where people actually want to go out at night time as opposed to going out to Nottingham City Centre.
But also, it's got the more you don't feel that pressure when you're here anyway. It's got that relaxed vibe where you're not pressured into playing with somebody that you don't find attractive just purely because you're here for that. Yeah. I mean, when I've been with Rob, it's been the social side of it as well, which has been great because you get to know that person and think, yeah, you know what, come on, we'll invite you with us.
Well, play isn't everything.
No.
And so, although it's a big proportion of the club, but it's about bringing that nice balance of having respectable people that can have their confidentiality respected, and a safe environment in which they can be, and keeping it all well presented and on a nice level is important.
And I think when it comes to those whole, right, we're going to go to a swingers club and we have to play, well, sometimes within an hour when I'm getting ready, I'll suddenly have a fat day. And it's like, oh, I don't feel particularly attractive right now. But go out and you go and meet people. And you might save those kind of people for a later date when you do feel a little bit more attractive.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of nice thing, because if you've got those kind of bits of chemistry, that's when you have good sex.
Yeah.
That's the important thing. Just because you kind of those expectations, you think, oh, shall we just perform like a puppet right now?
Yeah.
And then that's not a sexy thing.
So have you ever come across where, you know, had people in here and then you see somebody just come in and they look at someone thinking, oh crap, that's somebody I know from my personal life?
Not very often.
It's extremely rare. There's been, out of all the large number of people that have joined the club, it's happened maybe once, maybe twice.
And they're kind of an acquaintance in the same kind of area.
Yeah, they're people that
friends.
have worked together maybe or something.
Department.
And the reality of that is there's no issue there whatsoever because nobody discusses who's in the club outside of the club, and that's a global rule. So it's only likely that, you know, if two club members meet outside of the club, that they're going to talk about the club. And in reality, if you meet somebody in a vanilla social environment, and there are other people there, you don't really share your activities with them.
You don't really talk about your Amazon wish list when it comes to dildos and stuff at work anyway. So.
And do you feel the stigma is slowly going away with swinging clubs in the day and age that we're in now?
I think the world is polarising, so I think that the swinging environment is becoming much more accepted by a large group of people, but there are other groups of people out there that are pushing back against that, and I just think that's a little bit more open than it is nowadays. The open environment of the clubs is a lot better than it was historically. It's not 2 rooms with it's cultured and sophisticated with good music, as opposed to dirty and sleazy and a step away from a brothel or something. It's a lot better experience now than it was in the past.
And since you've opened as well, you've expanded into a couple more rooms, if I remember correctly.
That's correct.
Changing and swapping. I'm always decorating.
And are there any more plans for any future expansions?
Yes, there are. We're looking to make the downstairs areas of the club larger. Yeah, because socialising is such a big part, we really do need some more social space.
Yeah, it's not small, but it's limited to how many people you can have down here.
But then we kind of like, because you can go to some clubs now, massive, and you can come across like 200, 300 odd people, and you won't talk to anybody all night long. Yeah. And so I kind of prefer keeping numbers limited to about 60, 80 or whatever. And if you want, if somebody catches your eye, you actually have potential to chat to them and possibly play, which is much nicer.
Yeah, I mean, for me personally, I prefer to get to know, talk to that person, see if there is any chemistry there, rather than that person expecting, oh yeah, wham bam, that's it, it's expected. Yeah. And the other club that I've been to before, I shan't mention its name, it just felt, part of it felt really sleazy and not grimy, but it just felt more underground and not as sophisticated as this place. And I don't know if that's because they don't have the membership. And yes, they do have rules about who they let in, but at the same time, it feels like maybe you could tighten the reins a bit more.
I don't know, because sometimes you want that sleazy experience. So we will go to places, Chris and I will go to places like that, because that's the kind of experience that we want on that particular day. So we do. Sometimes you want that sleazy experience, but you don't want it all the time. Yeah. So some people might come here for a special treat. Some people might go to Club XYZ for something else, and then they might go, because there are so many different types of club all across the UK, and I can't think of too many that are particularly similar. Really, well, maybe. So yeah, it's just checking out different clubs and seeing what kind of experience that you want to share. Because when it comes to swinging the lifestyle, threesomes, foursomes, moresomes, gangbangs, whatever, you will find it somewhere, but not necessarily in one particular club or one particular night. So yeah, sometimes we like a little bit of sleaze.
So how does it affect your personal life? Because obviously you work together, you swing together, and then there's the relationship side of it. How do you balance everything?
I don't know, I probably need some more bathrooms at home. Well, we've been together now for almost 20 years. We've been married for 16 years this year.
Have we?
Yes, Christopher. Even though you can't ever remember my birthday.
It was just a look of confusion on his face then as well.
I like spending time with you. But I do kind of help myself in my head, kind of separating play from work. And then we've always separated play from home anyway, because home is where our family is.
Yeah.
And so that's another private space. I think I wrote about it on our blog. We've got so many different personas in our life, and it's very difficult to kind of almost separate them. So somebody's going to be a mum, and they're going to be manager at work, and then they might be a daughter or whatever. But all these different personas, they're kind of still part of you.
Yeah.
And I'm a great believer in that. You and your sexuality, that's part of your core. And it doesn't automatically mix with some personas. It's like new mums.
Yeah.
It's like I don't feel like a sexy wife anymore. And sometimes you have to kind of grab that back. So that's a nice thing. So when I'm with Chris, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, it's a nice thing, because it's almost, I feel, he might say something completely different, that's me catching up on all that lost time that when we had all those horrible stressful jobs and stuff, and I didn't get to see him all the time, and we were very much ships passing in the night, and so I like it. I'm not fed up with him yet. Although of course I do know it's quite difficult for married couples to work proactively together.
So
we don't argue about decorating much.
I just say no. That's not how it works.
So I have a feeling that Amanda just always gets her way.
Frequently. Although I just take the dog to the cafe, and that seems to fix everything.
So obviously, have you had any when you were opening here? Did you have any negative feedback? Is anybody opposing the place to open?
Not a lot. There was the odd little bump or comment, and those we just dealt with in the appropriate way, depending upon what they were. And so, in reality, the club received a humongous amount more support and encouragement than it did derision or scorn, and that gave us a great deal of encouragement when we were working through the process of getting the club going.
To be fair, even though they were being extremely negative, the one or two people when we were first opening, they didn't really understand what we were about, and it's like, that we could have been opening up a knocking shop or something, a massive brothel in the middle of West Bridgford, and because that's the only thing that they would connect it to. So I think through time, once they kind of realise what we're about and what people are actually doing with their own personal sex lives, that's all gone now. So no negative things at the moment.
That's good. I think, as you said, the way it is with your sex life and your sexuality, at the end of the day, it's legal, above board. Nobody's getting hurt without consent. It's just, I think...
Even with consent, we like to keep a little bit of an eye on them. Just to make sure people are safe.
But, it's that, going back as a whole, being more accepted. I think Britain still, as a whole, has got that little sex life is taboo, so to speak. And I do think it is becoming more open for people to say, hey, I'm a swinger.
Yeah, when you compare it to Europe, the UK is a long way behind.
Yeah, our clubs are slightly different. But then that little bit of taboo kind of adds to the spice, because that's the naughty, dirty little secret type thing, which you can share with your partner.
Yeah.
and you can go out and you can meet all of these wonderful people, and you can have playmates, and it's your little secret. You're not going to share it with your neighbours, and that's one of the things that makes it so exciting.
There's no, it's not a dirty little secret per se, but it's that little naughty secret that.
It's like when you do get those big double-ended dildos through Amazon packages.
And at least they're discreet.
Exactly.
It's being bad in a good way.
It is.
It's breaking with convention and saying, hey, I'm a rebel, I don't have to follow the rules. Even though you are, really, but you're just pushing against a few boundaries, and they're harmless ones.
I find it a nice learning experience as well, because I'm still learning about sex and sexuality. I think I want to be until I'm 80, really. And the more people that you share it with, the more that you discover, and then you can go and share that and all those naughty tricks and knowledge with other people.
But it's also the people you come across, like Rob, for example. And, you know, he's a lovely chap and a few experiences, and you have as well.
Yes, I have experienced Rob.
But then it's like, you know, you get lovely guys like Rob and Chris and other people that you meet here, but then also you've got the kind of, like, the ones who try to copy other people, and it's just like, no, it's not going to work.
I think people need to relax, be their own person, and do what they feel they want to do, rather than try to aspire to be somebody else. That's
Yeah, I think it works better if they are themselves more than trying to put on this, not facade, but this mask of like who people expect them to be.
Exactly. Yeah, but so people's personalities, because it is such a raw and honest experience when you're with other people in a group. People's personalities do tend to become more honest as time goes by. I quite like it when, because sometimes, well, when it comes to gender, we'll just remove that. So sometimes ladies will talk to one another, and they'll share where they got their knickers from, or what makeup they're wearing, or how to give a perfect blowjob, or something like that. Whereas I really, really like it when I see blokes being open and honest with each other. And because they tend not to get that in their own personal life with other people, even with their mates, they tend not to talk too much about either erectile dysfunction or things like Viagra or how do I last longer or little things like that. But they can do that here with strangers.
Yeah.
And that's a nice thing, because it helps. Because I kind of think we were always bigging up ladies and talking about body confidence and stuff. That's a huge important thing for me. But I think it's also equally important for blokes to kind of get all of those kind of sexual and body confidence issues kind of helped a little bit. Yeah, I like that.
And I think what helps more for men is if there's something like this, they might think in their head, I might never see them again. That's why I can be that bit more open about them.
It's non-judgmental as well. We strongly discourage unfair criticism in the club. Other than playing around and having fun, the club itself is very non-judgmental about the way that somebody looks, or their body type, or hair type, or gender preferences, and those kinds of things, race and origin and religion and politics, tend to stay away from the club.
Yeah, I noticed the last time I was here, we kind of veered onto politics. I was like, no, stay away from politics. It's one of those conversations.
Was that in the run-up to Brexit? I think everybody had no choice then.
But I have noticed as well, you're always very welcoming, whoever comes in from the walks of life, and it's not having that judgmental way. Sorry. It's alright, I can edit that out. It's about having that non-judgmental little thing in your head. It's just the way you're always welcoming them to people, and how you're always, saying, hope to see you again, hope you enjoyed yourself, which I think makes people more relaxed as well. Yeah. And having that chat with them beforehand and making them feel more relaxed, and then being on, like, the heckles up all the time, thinking, oh God, what's going to happen? I'm going to get jumped on. And
I've been in places where I've been jumped on. It's not nice. So yeah, we're kind of a polar opposite to that, because I'm a great believer in hospitality, definitely, and that's just the way I've been brought up.
And what have you got up and coming for the rest of this year?
Lots.
We've got, again, live music, comedians.
We've got a sleepover party tomorrow night in the immediate future. Then we have the Kinkster Soiree, which is a crossover night between the BDSM Kinkster community and the swinging community, and that can get quite entertaining, because the BDSM folk are all very serious, and the people involved in swinging tend to be more sociable and more spontaneous.
Yeah.
And so when they cross over, it gets to be quite a lot of fun. What else have we got coming? We've got a lot of musicians, local musicians, coming along to entertain us, generally on Saturday nights. Magicians as well.
Workshops.
Various workshops taking place, which are aimed at different groups of people. A lot of them are about introduction to the swinging lifestyle. It's called a swinging lifestyle. In reality, it's like playing golf. It's an activity.
Yeah.
It's something that somebody does because they enjoy it and they get pleasure from it.
We've got couples sexuality workshops, and lots and lots and lots of parties.
Yes. And everybody wants to have their birthday party here.
Yeah. Lots of cake.
We did one wedding reception. That was a different kind of fun. Wedding reception.
Putting all the little rose petals on the gangbang bed. Just married balloons up. Like a hotel upstairs.
Well, thank you very much for taking your time out of your busy day to sit down with me and have a chat. Where can people find you to find out information about upcoming events?
Mostly on the website, so if you have a look at purplemamba.com, purplemambaclub.com, all of our events are updated monthly and weekly, and they can have a look at that. Have a look at all of our membership details on the About page as well, or just give us a call.
Yeah. Well, thank you very much.
So, thank you there to Chris and Amanda from Purple Mamba Club. Hopefully you enjoyed that episode. We're sending obviously all our best to them. Hopefully they can get through this time. Hopefully the virtual stuff will keep things moving and offer a different kind of experience for people. You know, it is so important to follow the social distancing rules. That's going to have a massive impact on everybody's lives, but it is for our own health and for the health of others. As the advice is said, don't act like you might get the infection. Act like you have the infection, and consider the risks that you may pass it on to people. You know, some of you will be more vulnerable than others. We'll all know people that are in the high risk category, and it's so important to follow these guidelines. And it is so important because, you know, the more people that follow these guidelines, the more we follow these guidelines, the more chance we have of coming out of this at the other end. Just follow the advice of experts, keep on top of it. Obviously ignore the whack jobs. There's plenty of them out there. I've seen plenty of myself. But do stay safe, and hopefully at some point we'll all be out and about, and we'll be talking. You know, this is something we'll be telling people about in years to come, although I suspect there may be more of these kind of virus pandemics ahead. Hopefully this is a lesson that will send some learning. in terms of how we prepare for these things. As I said, we've got episodes coming up with Nottingham Lions FC and Luderati Cafe and Gaming Bar over the next couple of weeks. We are looking at putting some episodes together in relation to the current situation, in relation to COVID-19, talk to people on the front line and those infected and impacted, which of course is everyone. So there may be some shuffling around of the schedule in terms of those episodes, because they obviously are so prescient to the current time, so we may shuffle things around, or we may drop them out as bonus episodes, because obviously I'm sure you're all looking for plenty to entertain, listen to you and help you pass the time at the moment. So keep an eye out for them on our Facebook page, facebook.com/ngdigital, or at ngdigitaluk on Twitter. We'll keep you updated on everything going on there. So that's it for this week. Again, stay safe. I just want to send out massive thanks to all those on the front line at the moment, all those key workers, be NHS carers, the people working to keep the food supply going in the shops. These people, for most of us, it's about staying safe, following the lockdown instructions. Obviously there's a lot of concern around jobs and things like that, but these people are still having to go out there, putting themselves on the front line, and in many cases putting themselves at risk, and some of them having to isolate themselves from their families. So a huge thanks to all of those people, and to everyone that is following the guidelines. Thank you very much for listening to this episode. Please stay safe, please follow the instructions, and hopefully we'll get through this soon. We'll be back next week, but for now, that is goodbye.